Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Monday of the Bookseller. I'm your host, Jessica Gillen, ready to get into another book review. This week is a horror/sci-fi thriller, Pitch Dark, by Courtney, Alameda. This show is brought to you by Eventide Entertainment. This is exciting. We are finally throwing the show on Mondays instead of Sundays. Let me know what you think of that change, if this works better for your schedule. I mean, you can listen to the show at any time, but Mondays for me definitely work a lot better just because I work every other Saturday, and so my Saturdays sometimes are just crazy messes, and then I usually don't get to record until very late. And for once, I'm recording this and the sun is out. This is amazing. This is how books should be reviewed, is when there's daylight. Although, I will say I do most of my reading at nighttime, so what does it matter? So hello, it's me. We had a week off just because I had to catch up on some reading because I've been really failing at that lately. You guys need to get my butt into gear here. So I've read one book. I'm in the process of finishing the second book, so I'll definitely have a review for you next week. I'm going to really try to keep this week to week now. I'm hoping that by getting ahead with reading that we'll always have a show recorded just in case that I can't finish a book one week. Well, we have one already ready for you. So with that said, here we go. Another book review. And we're doing another horror novel. Now, I said before that YA horror, to me, is awful. It's never really executed very well. I've tried multiple times to read a horror book in the YA genre, and it just falls flat. I don't know if it's because it's more predictable, because honestly, I still can kind of predict some adult ones, but I feel like the adult horror stories are more fleshed out with their plots as well as the characters. So with all that said, I decided to give a horror book another chance in YA, especially with a new release. However, I have not heard a lot about this book. Most of the books that I review on the show either have a lot of buzz around them, sometimes already have a movie in the making. This book is not that case. So I don't know if it's just not people's taste or it just hasn't come to the really forefront of the book community yet. I even looked on YouTube and there was one review on this book. So, hey, doing a book that hasn't really been reviewed, that's fine. Maybe you'll like it, maybe not. We'll see. So, what was the book? Pitch Dark by Courtney, Alameda. This is a standalone horror/sci-fi novel, although there is kind of talks of it possibly having a second book. I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll get into that in a little bit here. This book was a hardcover, about 378 pages. However, it's not your standard hard copy size. It's about like a little bit smaller. It's more square. It's a faster read than most books that are around the 400 page mark. The chapters are really quick, and they do switch perspectives between two characters, a boy and a girl. The girl is Laura and the boy is Tuck. So it does alternate perspectives, and it also kind of gives you the location of where this person is, the date, as well as which ship they're on. So that always helps to just kind of refresh your brain when you've just read a chapter about a person and then you go to the next person, you're like, okay, where are you again? I can't remember. So that was nice. I always like when we have alternating or dual perspectives that we kind of get re-centered in the setting, especially if we've had a really long chapter on a previous character, just so that way we can kind of get reacclimated to the setting. So this was released on February 20th of this year. So like I said, it is a recent release. This has a Goodreads rating of about 3.98 with about 400 reviews. Most of those are just ratings though. I think it was only like maybe 40 something people wrote a couple words on the book. So very, very few. Amazon had a rating of 4.5 with only 10 reviews. And the way Amazon works is you do not have to write something for it to be considered a review. So really it was just a couple of ratings and a couple of people writing a couple words. So really not a lot of buzz on this, not a lot of talk. Like I said, there was one YouTube review on this. So not a lot of people are talking about it. I'm not really sure on that. I think it's just not a popular genre in the YA community. It's a huge popular genre in adult. I know adult horror stories or adult suspense, sci-fi are really, really popular. So I think that's the difference there is young adults are just not interested in this genre in particular. So this author also has a novel called Shudder, which is also a horror book. I saw that it did get some really good ratings on that one. It won the Bram Stoker award of some kind for young adult. So she is a very original horror story writer, so I will give her that. And a lot of her ideas in her books are pretty original. I don't really see a lot of these concepts, especially in this one that I read, that I've seen done before. Of course, you know, we have the same, like, it's in space and spaceships and stuff we've seen in other books, but she just brought in a couple more plot devices in a plot. She just seemed more original in her writing. So with that said, let's talk about the description. Here we go. Sultry voice in check. Let's go. Tuck has been in stasis on the U.S. John Muir, a ship that houses Earth's most valued artifacts, its natural resources. Parks and mountains are preserved in the space. Laura belongs to a ship-raiding family who are funded by a group used to getting what they want, and they want what's on the Muir. Tuck and Laura didn't bargain on working together or battling mutant aliens who use sound to kill. But their plan is their only hope for their crews, their families, and for themselves. In space, nobody can hear you scream, but on the John Muir, the screams are the last thing you'll hear. Very short, sweet, to the point. I like horror stories that kind of like set you up with like, ooh, creepy silence and monsters and aliens and stuff. Cool. So yes, that is what enticed me into this book. There's aliens that can kill with sound. That's kind of giving me the Dead Silence video game. Also kind of Amnesia. I don't know if anyone's ever played that horror game where you really had to be as quiet as possible, especially when the monsters were around, because the monsters found you only based on your sound. So, yeah. Definitely creep vibes. So before we get into the plot and the characters and the writing, basically all the good stuff, we're going to take our minute break. You're going to listen to some awesome entertainment offers here at Eventide, and we'll be back in just a minute.
You know, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company.
Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes. Wednesdays on Eventide, Robert Yetter and Mike Shea sit down and throw albums at each other, talking about them, picking them apart, ripping them a new one. All different artists, all different genres, all different levels of suckage. It's Track Record, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on the Eventide podcast feed. For more information, go to eventideent.com.
All right, thank you for hanging out for a minute and listening to everything here at Eventide. I am back with your plot info. So, since this is a horror sci-fi novel, I don't want to give, obviously, the entire plot away. However, the plot was kind of confusing. Now, I will generally give you what the idea is of the book. The book is about Laura and Tuck. Tuck was put on this ship 450 years ago. They were taken off of Earth. Him and his mom and a huge crew of people went on the ship, took Yosemite National Park onto the ship, somehow, keep preserving some kind of the soil, the trees, all that kind of stuff so they could terraform some planets, because Earth was already beginning to deteriorate based on our wastefulness, the technology, and just how we were treating our planet. So kind of definitely mirrors what's going on right now. Just if we're to keep on this path, then we're going to be put onto these ships trying to terraform other planets. So that's where Tuck was. He went onto a ship meant to go find a new planet to terraform by bringing the entire Yosemite National Park with them. I don't know how this is done, and honestly, it does not get explained at all, so don't try to be like, how is that possible? I don't know how it's possible, but in this book it is, and it's kind of cool if you think about it, going into a spaceship and walking to this dome, and it's just like the entire national park. That's kind of cool. It's just hard to picture, I guess. So yeah, don't get hung up on the details here, people. So, he is stuck on this ship, and in order for them to terraform other planets, they have to really go deep into space. Well, something happens and someone either abducts or does something to the ship where it really puts them into deep space where nobody's going to be able to find this ship. So what the crew does, including Tuck, is they go into these pods to sleep for as long as it takes until someone finds them. Well, fast forward 450 years, Tuck wakes up. He wakes up and he's like, oh my God, this really can't be this year, can it? This is nuts. I can't believe I've been asleep for this long. His mom, he doesn't know where his mom is. There's a bunch of pods that have been opened and he can't find people. The first thing he encounters are these creepy alien monster things that are described incredibly well. Really fucking well done with the monsters. Excuse my language, but really super impressed with the description of them. And the thing about them is they can hear you based on your sound, your movements, even your stomach growls, maybe your heart's beating too fast, blood dripping on the floor, literally anything. You're trying to be as quiet as possible. So when Tuck wakes up and he's face to face with this monster, it's scary as all hell. The monster can hurt people and kill people based on sound that they emit. So a scream can literally decapitate someone's head off. Pretty gruesome and very gory kind of book in that way. He eventually finds other people in the ship. This all happens in the very beginning of the book. And then we switch to Laura. Laura is on a different ship. It's kind of an archaeologist exploring kind of ship, and it's her family, the Cruises, who are the commanders of the ship. They're the big giant family that is known for their exploration and for finding historical artifacts and whatnot. And expenses are paid by the Smithsonian family. So for those of you that know of the very famous museum in New York, the Smithsonian, their family is providing the money to the Cruises to find these artifacts. However, there's a bit of a rivalry between the two families, and we'll get into that as far as other plots. So we have their family is kind of at war with this family, and it's all over this Declaration of Independence. The Cruise family has found the Declaration of Independence, and they've also found the John Muir, which is the ship that Tuck is on. And it's a really big deal because the ship, again, has soil on it that can possibly terraform other planets so they could actually colonize them. And so the Cruises are celebrating because they found the ship, and the Smithsonians are trying to usurp the Cruises in order for them to be the leaders, the ones in power. It's very much like a power dynamic between the two families. Laura dated Sebastian, who is the son of the Smithsonian, and they're not dating anymore. There's some issues there. Their ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, definitely a lot of drama. And the Smithsonian family put some kind of device in Laura where she can't tell her family any of the Smithsonian secrets about how they're trying to usurp them, what they plan to do, anything like that, because they put this device in her that kind of makes it so she cannot say anything negative about the Smithsonians. And apparently no one notices, anything weird about this. She can literally be told what to do by Sebastian, for instance. He can say, like, walk over here, and she will have to walk over. All right, let's take a minute. If this is confusing you, I am so sorry. I am trying my very best to give you what this plot is about in the way that it was presented to me. And yes, it's confusing. I was confused. You're not alone, okay? So basically all you have to know is there's two ships. One ship is the exploration ship, finds the John Muir. Tuck is on the John Muir. He's part of the crew that has Yosemite National Park on it, which the explorer ship is really happy that they found because they can use that soil to terraform and colonize a planet. However, one ship collides with the other ship and they have an impact. People die. Laura has to somehow get onto the John Muir, and she has to go kind of in the deep, dark spaces. And that's where she meets Tuck and a bunch of monsters that are creepy as all hell. So, as you can tell, we have a space exploration plot. We have ex-boyfriend, family rivalry plot. We have scary monsters that can hear your sound and kill you with their sound plot. And also a romance between Tuck and Laura plot. If you think I'm done with that, there's more plots. So there's a lot going on in this book, okay? The main thing that I went into this book thinking, really cool monsters. I really like the action sequences. Very well done in that regard. Very fast-paced book. However, there is so much going on. I mean, I just tried to explain to you the lowest form of explanation I could without giving so much detail away. But, I mean, just even explaining what the plot is about, there's so many plots. And the thing is, there's still more plots going on. I just felt like she had a lot of original ideas, but too many. Please, we did not need all these extra, I get the families, kind of being at war with each other and this ship can help colonize a planet. But then we also get oh my gosh, okay, how about this? I'm going to tell you every single plot that is going on in this 350-page book. Technology and wastefulness caused Earth to become uninhabitable plot. Archaeologist families at war plot. Ex-boyfriend and his family put illegal tech in Laura to keep her mouth shut plot. Zombie morphing dead space alien type creature plot. Spaceship is carrying the entire Yosemite National Park plot. Oh my god, you're annoying. I like you. Love story plot. Everyone is going to die if we don't save this ship plot. And there was a hacker/terrorist plot as well. So there is a hacker terrorist group that is trying to keep all of this from happening because they don't believe that the human race should have another chance at terraforming or colonizing another planet. You had your chance with Earth and you failed. So we're going to try to do everything we can to stop that from happening. I'm pretty sure I'm missing some plots, but that is the main ones. Okay. So much going on. Kind of unnecessary. I mean, if we had just had deep space travel with scary monsters, that would have been enough for me. I'm not looking for, a whole series on this. This is a standalone book. Why do I need this much plot? It's just... So because there were so many plots, you can tell that the book at times was a little muddled or a little confusing, and tons upon tons of plot holes. I mean, half of those things that I told you about don't get wrapped up or don't get explanations. We don't really get explanations on how they terraformed and transported an entire national park onto a spaceship. Like, how is that possible? It's very hard to picture. It's cool, but it's very hard to picture. And then there was some weird AI stuff going on about like halfway through, maybe a little bit more, about page 250. It just switched to like an AI weirdness that just left me being like, what the hell is going on? Why are we having to do this whole extra piece now? This makes zero sense. I don't know what is going on. I'm not being told or explained anything. I mean, even with the zombie alien creepiness creatures, which were by far the best parts of the book, we got barely an explanation of where they came from, how they were created, and why they were here. Barely anything. You got enough where it was like, oh, that's cool, but wait, no, tell me more. And nothing. We got nothing else. Even at the end of the book where they kind of like threw something together in the end, it was still not enough. And then on top of all that with the love story, I mean, fine. At that point, I was just kind of like, what's another plot gonna hurt? Why not have, like star-crossed lovers plot too? But just throw it all in there. Let's make it a big melting pot of plots. Okay, strong points. Let's talk about that really quick after we just kind of talked about the plot for a while. It's just really confusing, guys. I mean, if you can't tell, I liked this book in the sense of it was original, given how many plots there were. No, it was original. The monsters were really cool. Really creepy, graphic scenes, very gory, very fast-paced, which is good and bad, just because it was good because it kept you wanting to read and engaged in the story, but you were so confused at the same time because nothing was getting explained to you because it was so fast-paced. Like, about 300 pages in, you find out that they have to save this ship in like a matter of a couple hours. And you're like, what is going on right now? This is ridiculous. Why do I have to have this time crunch now? We already have the monsters chasing us. We do not need something else. So it was a little bit overkill. Original idea. Laura as a character was amazing. Tuck was a little annoying because he uses a lot of 80 references, which are fine. That's fine. I have nothing wrong with 80s references, but it was a little overkill. You didn't really get to know who he was as a character. Laura was kind of the more fleshed out character. And I think that's kind of common, though, with some authors, especially, this was written by a woman, and we are more in tune with how a woman is feeling or how to create a character that is a woman versus a man. It's a little bit more difficult to be inside their shoes and what they're thinking. So I understand to a point. Laura was definitely more fleshed out. But overall, the characters were just kind of meh. The background characters, the side characters, even the family rivalry didn't have as much power as it did at the beginning of the book. It just kind of fell flat by the middle. The monsters were really fun, super unique. It just had too much going on, guys. I mean, I can't recommend this book to you unless you really love sci-fi. It was cool in that aspect, but it's going to bother the living hell out of you that nothing is explained. And in that regard, I can't recommend this book. I gave it 3 stars because the monsters were really cool, and I will say that was the best part. And I would say from the reviews that I did read, most people loved the monsters. That was awesome. but people had some hang-ups the same ways I did. Too much going on. I felt like I had whiplash and ADHD. Like my brain was like going back and forth like, wait, when is this plot gonna get solved? And wait, that's a plot hole. I'm confused. You didn't explain that technology. How is this happening? Who is that guy? Why is there hackers? It was just too much. So I gave it 3 stars. Do not recommend this book. Give it a try, though, if you just are going to go in going, you know what? I'm going to read this for the monsters. I'm going to listen to Jessica when she says the plot is very confusing. I won't get hung up on it. Yeah. Go into it thinking like that. But overall, I don't recommend it. I'm sorry. I am completely striked out in the horror genre, in the YA genre. It's just not my thing. If I'm going to read horror stories or suspense stories, it's going to be adult from now on. I can't do the young adult anymore. It's too frustrating for me. Fantasy, young adult all the way, 100%. Horror stories, no. It's not been executed well. The only person that's ever executed a horror suspense story in YA is Neil Schutzerman, and even then, I mean, it's not like, gory, scary horror when you think, Stephen King or the Amityville Horror or something. Enjoy this review. I bet it made 0 cents, but if that's to tell you anything, that's because the book made 0 cents. So, anyway, if there's a book 2, I won't be reading this. I am so sorry that this could not be a fun review. Maybe it was still because I rambled and this book was confusing. I hope everyone has a really great reading week, and I will see you next Monday. Be sure to look up my progress on Goodreads to find out what I'm reading next week, as well as you can message me on there and recommend books to me. I also opened my Owl Crate this week, and there's an awesome book in there. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye, guys.